Right, guys, welcome back to the channel. So apologies about the delay. I've been getting things set up in the background. So we have a banger for you tonight. I thought it was going to be an exposure on the Mormons. It is an exposure on the Mormons, but this is Ruby Franke, YouTube's monster Mormon mother. And this lady is an absolute monster. What she done to her children is unexplainable. And this lady was on YouTube. She had a YouTube channel, and Shawn Warner is going to be coming on, and he's going to be explaining in depth, in detail, what this lady done. And guys, this is a bit of a warning to you. If you're not into this type of content, turn off now. This isn't for the faint-hearted. You know, if anybody knows who Ruby Franke is, you know, I've just recently learned about this woman over the past month or so, and this is disturbing stuff. So if you aren't into this type of content, what she done to her kids was, you know, it comes under the bracket of torture. And yeah, she was on YouTube giving parenting advice. So what we're going to do now is we're going to bring in Shawn Warner. Bring him on now. Shawn,
hey,
how you
doing?
Sir? I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good. Man, I have to apologize. I thought this was an exposure just solely on the Mormons of Utah, but then the link that you sent me, I clicked it just as it was sorting out the music for the live. I hope everybody enjoyed that music. And I have to say, I heard about this lady. This lady was despicable, absolutely despicable.
And she wasn't alone. She had a partner, a woman named Jody Hildebrandt.
Like I can't describe to you when it comes to children. This is whenever I get a little bit, you know, angry. I understand adults doing bad things to adults, but for adults to do things to kids, I do believe there was psychological torture upon these children. There was physical torture. They were played off amongst each other, and basically to start this off, this was all based on Mormon principles.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, you know.
Wow.
She had well, both of these women had their own YouTube channels, and apparently it's like a family thing with the Frankes, because their original podcast YouTube show was called 8 Passengers, because it was her now estranged husband and their 6 kids. So they racked up like 2.5 million subscribers, you know, so they were making coin. When all this came down, you know, they were immediately demonetized. And I think beyond that, the channel was just taken down. But, you know, just a little background on it. Ruby Franke is, I guess, this Mormon woman who married to this guy named Kevin Franke. And then she hooked up with this woman named Jody Hildebrandt, who was a therapist who lost her license for giving, you know, horrendous advice that was ruining families. And, you know, these are 2 of the worst people to give parenting advice. I would rather take parenting advice from Ian Brady and Myra Henley than take it from these 2. You know,
very interesting stuff, Shawn. I have to say, you know, for people that don't know, these you know, you've just explained it there, but for me to recap on this here, these people had YouTube channels totaling 2.2 million views. People went to this channel, took advice from these women on how to raise their kids. When researching this a couple of weeks ago, because I did do a little bit of research, there was one video that stood out to me, and I suppose this is a great starting point, where they were on Christmas Day, they would get no presents. They would get nothing as children. Like they would end up with like a bag of oranges or something, and or one of the
Right.
kids would get absolutely nothing, and then another kid would get lots of stuff.
Yeah,
And
yeah, that's how they did it. They kind
and
of played one
food
against
too.
the other.
They
Oh, they
wouldn't
would
eat.
withhold food as punishment.
They would you make sure they would starve the children as punishment. Now, best place to start off with, right? Which way do you want to do this? Do you want to start off from the very start, or do you just want to get into individual stories in this here? Because we could do this either way.
Well, I think kind of a combination of, I mean, you know, keep the narrative in order so people know, you know, they had their channel, all these horrible things happened, and they're now in jail facing.
Well, break down to the audience then, if you can, Shawn, what the certain way they would treat their kids and the parenting advice they were giving to parents to you know, to teach. They were teaching people basically. What were they teaching people to do with their kids?
Well, they it all kind of spins out of this Mormon teaching, and in Utah, you know, the Church of the Latter-day Saints, which is the Mormon Church, they run everything. They Utah is like the Mormons' Vatican City. You know, they just run everything. The courts, the police, the schools, everything. Everybody kind of has to acquiesce to these Mormon teachings. And the thing is, after the kids reach, I forgot what the age is, but it's like 8th grade or something like that. But then they're taken out of school and I guess homeschooled at that point, because they don't want kids like forming ideas outside of this, you know, this Mormon brainwashing machine. And you know, I mean, just to give a little bit of history on the Mormon Church, I don't want to bash anybody's religion, but the Mormon Church, their doctrine is way out, and it's really hard to get your head around that. I mean, the Bible itself is pretty out there, and it's hard to understand how scientific minded people could believe it, but the Book of Mormon goes even further. It talked, this guy Joseph Smith was visited by the angel Gabriel, and he was given these golden tablets that only he could see, and he would read from them, you know, to the people, and according to him, Jesus and St. Peter and I believe St. John all came to America and kind of Christianized the native people. And it's just so far out there that, I mean, you know, the South Park guys, they of course wrote the Broadway play that was a total spoof on the Book of Mormon, but everything they mentioned is actually in the Book of Mormon or in the Mormon history. It's so far.
Well, I think
out
that's
there.
what I think. What South Park done in regards to that is people went, "Oh, this is a joke, isn't it?" And then South Park went, "Actually, no, it's not a joke. We just literally took what they do and put it into a cartoon." And people researched it and was like, "Actually, South Park didn't lie about a single thing.
No,
they are actually this wacky."
Right. I mean, when people say Christians, oh, you believe that the earth is only, you know, 12,000 years old or something, some like crazy number like that. And, you know, all you have to say to just destroy it is dinosaurs, you know.
Well, hold on, that's a different story, because apparently dinosaurs aren't real. But anyway, that's true. That's a different story. But I know this, and that is a different podcast. Well, I could sit and talk about that all day. Right?
I was just saying how I didn't want to kind of focus on one person or one people's religion and say it's the most wacky.
Yeah, I get that. Listen, their
I
doctrine,
think it is the most wacky.
Their doctrine is wacky, and what's happened is you've had these people branch off, start their own YouTube channels, and they're actually exposing what they're doing with their children.
Yeah.
Now, let's just get into this.
Okay.
What's the most horrific thing that she was doing to her children?
Well,
and she was bragging about this on YouTube. Why?
Yeah.
She
doesn't. If you watch, she has the most sinister smile. She's like a female Joker. Like when she's talking about how, I deprived my kid of any meals, not even breakfast, until she finishes her chores. And the one thing that really blew me away was her one daughter forgot to pack her lunch. Okay, a 6-year-old forgot to pack her lunch. So she calls her, Ruby Franke calls the school and says, the school called and said, hey, your kid forgot her lunch. And she said, I'm not bringing her a lunch. Don't let anybody help her. This is, her fault. She's going to, I guess, teach her a lesson by letting a 6-year-old starve while everybody else is having lunch. I mean, what kind of parenting is that?
So what I'm going to do here, Shawn is right. I'm going to actually share something to the screen.
Okay.
Right. I'm going to share YouTube. I'm going to share YouTube to the screen here. Okay. So this is Ruby Franke being horrible for 5 minutes straight. Now this lady teaches parents how to raise their children.
Yeah.
So people need to bear that in mind. This lady is horrible. So
look at her. This looks like a scene from American Horror Story. You look at this woman. She is sinister.
So let me just play a little bit here.
One more time, and then you're going to lose the privilege to eat dinner.
My bedroom was taken away for 7 months, and then you give it back like a couple of weeks ago.
I don't think our viewers know that.
You've been sleeping on a beanbag.
I've been sleeping on a beanbag since October.
Look at that smile.
She made she took her child's bedroom away for 7 months, or was it 7 weeks? So it doesn't make a difference.
It was months.
Smiling about it.
Look at that smiling about this. And the kid is so abused that he's okay with it. Basically, like he's in on the joke.
Yeah, like this is messed up, guys. And this lady is in prison now, I believe, isn't she?
Well, she's awaiting trial in jail. To hopefully she'll end up in prison with her accomplice Jody Hildebrandt. But they're facing 6 felony counts of child abuse.
Wow.
Child abuse, not like neglect or anything. Straight up 1st-degree child abuse. The worst child abuse charge you can get.
Well, let's play this on a bit here, and then we'll have something to work off.
Like 2 weeks ago. I'll give you the reason why I lost my bedroom. I think so. I think this is the reason. At least this is the reason that's been in my head. It's pretty funny, but now that I look back, I mean, it's pretty depressing.
No, we never told our viewers
that. I woke Russell up at 2 in the morning and told him that we're going to Disneyland and he has to pack. And he got up and made his bed all neatly and then packed all his clothes.
So, guys, this young lad lost his bedroom from his mom. Like he's what, 14, 15, 16, lost his bedroom.
He's like 17, so he's sleeping in the family room. No TV, no phone. None of her kids have phones. She took them all, like as for a punishment. Now her kids can no longer reach her in an emergency. That's punishment.
Yeah. And like, he's happy about this because this is his way of life. He's being brought up in the worst. It's not even discipline, torture, and it goes on. That's actually light because she would starve her.
Yeah, that's very light.
And think about why he got his room privileges took away, because
he played a prank on his little brother. I mean,
there you go.
I don't have siblings, but I can imagine. I used to play pranks on my friends or my cousin. And, it's all in good fun. It's nothing to get hung about or to, it's nothing to lose your living quarters over and have.
Yeah, of course, man, 100%. It just doesn't happen.
No.
Days. And then he walked out the door, and I'm like, Russell. He's like, what? And he's all happy. Has his sunglasses on.
Do you think it's funny? Because
And then I walk out.
if you think it's funny, then that was 7 months ago. Maybe you need longer without a bedroom.
It was not funny.
Russell got the big bedroom, and Chad got the smaller bedroom. And Russell's bigger bedroom also had a bathroom. But what you guys didn't know was Chad didn't get any room. He didn't get anything.
That's a psychopath, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
He was sleeping on the floor in the family room. Abby, we took the phone away from Abby in November. And you may never get the phone back.
Probably not.
No, I have no friends.
You can play with friends.
No, like I don't have friends.
I don't have friends either.
I literally
And that was the thing. People need to realize that these children were isolated away from people. They didn't have peers, or I think they were homeschooled too, weren't they?
Yeah. And mind you, the husband, their father, has been out of the house for 14 months on the advice of Jody Hildebrandt. You know, so
was he a whack job too?
Yeah, well, he was involved in these videos as well. He's culpable. What I think is going to happen is they're going to use him as a material witness, and if he doesn't cooperate, then they're going to hit him with the same charges. You know, I mean, that's just the way things are done in America. You know,
I got you. Yeah.
If you have a witness, an eyewitness to these kind of charges, you want them to work with the prosecution. And if this guy, you know, obviously he's a spineless type of guy because he didn't stand up for his children. You know, he's the type of guy that just let this monster steamroll him, you know, and they live in like a $3 million home. These aren't like, you know, working class people. These are people who are well off. They live in their house looks like a compound that a celebrity would live in. Well,
that's what it is. It's at the end of the day, they lived in basically a religious sort of base compound, wasn't it? Like, I mean, yeah. Well, what we'll do is we'll listen on here because there's a few more clips that's going to pop up.
I don't even know where they live. They're pretty far away.
So, summer goal, become the best athlete I possibly can.
If you cut one more thing in my house, I'm going to take the scissors, look at me, and I'm going to cut its head off.
Grandma will be so mad.
Right, that little girl is, her face is blanked out, thank God. But that little girl is what, 7, 8?
At the most.
And she's threatening to cut the head of the teddy bear because she's not doing what she's told.
I mean, the next step up is to threaten to kill the family pet. Like, man, that's psychological torture to a child. Of course it is.
That should not be allowed. I know I obviously it's not allowed, right? But how was she facilitated online doing this? Was there not comments saying you're a disgusting human being? Was the CPS not called? Were the police not called, like, prior to all of this?
No, she had, I mean, I guess, you know, at first glance, it seems almost like a skit, you know, like almost like a kind of like a comedy sketch. But after you watch like 2 or 3 of these things and you're like, you know, it finally dawns on you that like this woman is for real. She's really doing this. So they pulled the channel down, and then they started. She kind of hooked up after she kicks her husband out. Then she really goes all in with Jody Hildebrandt, and they start a new channel called Connections Classrooms, which is a parenting advice, same type of deal, but more focused on not the household, but just these two horrible people giving advice on marriage and child rearing. And you know, Jody Hildebrandt, her own niece, came forward and said, spoke of the abuse that she suffered at her hands of her own blood relative. You know, they accused a 3-year-old of being a porn addict. How does a 3-year-old even comprehend pornography? It's impossible.
Well, this is the thing. They're whack jobs, right? So we've established that they're whack jobs. Let's listen on here because I've got a funny feeling this gets worse.
It does.
Oh, sorry.
I'm going to take the scissors. Look at me, and I'm going to cut its head off.
Grandma will be so mad.
So what are you going to do?
Are you going to cut anything else? No.
You promise? Look at Mama. I just got a text message from Eve's teacher, and she said that Eve did not pack a lunch today, and can I bring a lunch over to the school?
This is the one I was talking about.
This happens quite often when you're raising children, because I know that her teacher is uncomfortable with her being hungry and not having a lunch, and it would ease her discomfort if I came to the school with a lunch. But I responded and just said, Eve is responsible for making her lunches in the morning, and she actually told me she did pack a lunch. So the natural outcome is she's just going to need to be hungry. And hopefully nobody gives her food and nobody steps in. And
what mother leaves their child to be hungry in school? You need to be fed to learn. That child, that poor child is in school, and she done something wrong at home. It probably wasn't anything wrong at all.
All she did was forget to pack her lunch. That was the offense. She forgot to pack her lunch.
My God, like the fact that you can be this type of a person, like this goes, I have to say this goes far beyond religious indoctrination.
Yes, it does.
Because there's maternal instinct. This is what you're witnessing here is pure evil.
Yes.
Pure evil. There's no other word for that. And that other girl, Jody, that was the devil. That was the devil. We'll get into her.
She is so much. I mean, this is terrible. This woman right here is the worst of the worst, but this Jody Hildebrandt trumps her. I mean, they got together and it was like, Satan meeting Hitler, I mean,
Yeah, well, I'm going to play this on now, right? And we'll get into the next clip and we'll react to the next clip.
Gives her a lunch. You're going to pass on the sucker?
I've had enough brownie for a lifetime. I really don't need one.
Once you hit 99 pounds, you don't need any suckers anymore. You're too old. You're too big.
I just had a lot of brownie.
He's to bed maybe like once every 8 months. Like, it's been a very long time since she wet the bed. I was like, oh, darn it. That's all right. Just go sleep on the floor in the bathroom.
I have been a masterful manipulator. I have manipulated using sex. I've manipulated using external rewards. I have wanted something and I'm going to get it no matter.
Right? To tell you that.
Like, right. I need to decipher that. What did I just witness?
She is explaining how she's a master manipulator and she's used sex, I guess, speaking about her husband, to get whatever she wants, whether it's a material thing or, whatever. She seems to be pretty materialistic. So I would say, maybe she wants to go out to an expensive dinner. So she, hey, let's do a little transaction here. Basically, what she's saying so proudly is that she prostitutes herself to her own husband for whatever she wants at the moment.
Yeah. That's Wow. So we've established she's a manipulator, and she's capable of what I've just witnessed. She's capable of psychological abuse towards her the children, which is basically comes under coercive control.
Yeah.
And she is a manipulator of sort of sexual manipulator of men.
Admitted herself, you know, not accused, that she freely admitted proudly that she is well versed in manipulation.
Wow. Wow. Right, let's play this on here.
Mm-hmm.
This, honey, but unless you find a friend who's willing to share some of their food with you, I don't think you're going to be able to eat. But if you're not responsible for your lunch and your lunch money, that's the natural consequence. And I'm really sorry you're learning this the hard way. I will have a wonderful, yummy snack. Just hang in there today and just make up your mind. You're going to be really careful and make sure you grab your stuff when you go to school next time. And maybe you have a good friend who will share some of their sandwich with you or something. Russell, I'm really sorry. He sounded like...
Right, so that is her on the phone to her child while her child is starving in school, saying, "Mom, can you bring me something to eat? I forgot to pack my lunch." Anyway, the mom should be reminding the child, because children are growing up and they've got so much going through their head. You should listen. Have you got anything for your lunch? At least take an apple. Take something with you so you're not hungry.
Or how about your mom packing your lunch for you? I mean, you know, is that such a terrible thing?
Okay, maybe you're trying to raise your children a bit more self-sufficient. I get that. Some people are like that.
I get that.
I heard of a dad who makes the kids do their own washing, and they actually do it. So I'm not going to get at parents for that. But what I am going to say is that whenever your child says they're hungry, and another thing I picked up on there, you're responsible for getting the money. Sure, that's your child in school. Should you not be giving
what does the kid have? I mean, at 6 years old, have a bank account?
Hold on, was that the 6-year-old she was speaking to?
Well, it sounded like it was the youngest boy, the one that the older one played the practical joke on. So I'm assuming at this point he's probably around 9 or 10 at the time of this conversation.
Wow. That's absolutely disgusting. This woman should never get out of prison ever, and she should be made to watch all her videos back every single day, just as punishment, as torture, as this is what you've done. You've done this to your children.
Well, the great thing is that all this exists as evidence for the prosecution. So it's, you know, it's going to be, again, the case is being heard in Utah. So in Utah, the Church of Latter-day Saints kind of run the show. But I think that even this goes too far, because the church was sending clients to Jody Hildebrandt before she lost her therapy license. And now they've kind of taken a step back. So I think that these, you know, they kind of were the church's, like, you know,
so the church
girls,
is complicit.
You know,
the church is complicit in everything that's happened here.
Absolutely. To this point, yes. You know, I don't think that they're providing any defense or anything for them, but they were certainly complicit up until the arrest.
Wow.
You know,
that's absolutely disgusting. I'm going to play on here.
He was going to cry.
I have a hot tub in my backyard, and because it's in my home and it's on my property and I paid for it, it's under my jurisdiction. I have stewardship over that hot tub. And so I get to decide the types of bathing suits people wear when they're in that hot tub.
I'm sorry. I'm just imagining
This is a control freak.
I have to say, I'm just imagining my forehead colliding with that massive nose, and then the front of the skull just opening up, and then me jumping on top, full mount, ground and pound with elbows into the eye socket, and just going, "There you go. This is my arena, bitch. This is what you get for doing shit to your children." This woman is a disgrace to the human civilization.
She is. She doesn't deserve the title of mother.
Definitely
not.
I don't
get to walk around and say, that's not appropriate. I don't want that swimming suit. I don't get to do that because it's public property. It's a public pool. I do get to decide what comes into my home. And I have decided there's no bikinis. And so if someone comes over with a bikini, they are invited to put on something else or to leave.
A year ago, my daughter was saying her prayers. Eve, she was 6 years old at the time. And she was saying her prayers and she said the cutest thing. I thought it was so cute. And I started laughing. She said, "Dear Heavenly Father, please help me to survive." And I thought it was.
There you go. The child
That's
was
funny. That's funny
was,
to her.
The child was praying to God to help her survive, her 6-year-old child, to help her survive, not because of the big bad world, but because her own child was living in a hellhole.
Right.
Her mother was psychologically.
That's what she was praying to survive, her own family.
Yes.
You know, dear God,
yes.
help me survive
yes.
this family that you've
yes.
cursed me with.
Yes, 100%. I get that 100%, and I feel physically sick. I know a lot of people are going to say, Ronan, you just said you were going to commit violence, or you were thinking about committing violence over a female. I don't consider this person a female or male. I consider this person the devil, and you know, I have no words to describe to you when children are involved. Game on. It's free game to me. I don't care what gender you are. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So cute, and it just took me off guard, and I kind of giggled a little. That was an experience for her, and she melted. She melted. She was angry, and she started crying.
Right. So, let me see. I'll take this off here. So, Shawn, how do we react to that? How do we react to that? What I've just witnessed, and that's the least of their worries, because what was going, which that was her projecting the least what was going on. So that's her. That's what she was telling to her YouTube subscribers, right? Her 2.2 million subscribers. Now, what was going on behind the scenes that we didn't know?
Well, behind the scenes, the children were being I guess the best word would be I don't know, held captive. They were duct taped by the wrists and the ankles, and apparently this duct taping thing is a common thing in this Mormon community, because other people were called in and said, I was duct taped and denied meals and things like that. So, but it's not everybody, because the 12-year-old boy, he was, I guess, after Kevin Franke was ejected from the home, Ruby Franke started leaving her kids more often at the Hildebrandt's house. And the one day that got this whole thing rolling, the 12-year-old gets out of his duct tape. And now, because he has been duct taped before, he has, signs of the skin being, pulled off, and there's abrasions. Cayenne. They used cayenne pepper and honey on the abrasions.
I would hold that thing down and spray mace into her mouth for what she done to those children.
Well,
she duct taped those children's arms together and tortured them. And that is some sick. Who said something there? Somebody said something there. Behavior towards a woman. That ain't no woman, mate. She was torturing little children here, man. I mean, this isn't normal behavior, and this was facilitated by the Mormon Church. They knew what was going on. Yeah. They promoted her children being their hands duct taped together, starved in a room. There's nothing more angry than that. That's like, I have to, maybe I'm being too honest here, but I feel like if I was in the room with the father, the mother, and the people all complicit in that, do you ever watch the scene from you ever watch the scene from Mr. In Between where all the nonces are in the room? He catches the child catchers, and they're all in one room.
Right.
And there's all like women or men, and he just takes out the machete, and he just goes in and he just butchers every single one of them.
Right.
That's what they need, because there's no place on earth for anybody that harms children.
I mean, of course, everybody knows my background. So, I mean, I feel like I have to watch what I say a little bit more. But, sometimes, the human animal can stir emotions to the point where the only reaction is violence. And I'm not condoning violence.
No, I'm not condoning violence.
But I'm saying these children were defenseless. They need someone to protect them. Their father failed them. Their mother is the abuser. So where do they go? The 12-year-old climbs out the window, goes to a neighbor's house. Now, this old guy, he is either not a Mormon or he's not like a Mormon child abuser. I don't know. But he calls 911. He says, look, there's a 12-year-old at my door. He's emaciated, malnourished. Now, okay, dig that. Emaciated, malnourished. That's not missing one meal. Do you know how long it takes to get malnourished? That means you haven't been eating for quite some time. Malnourishment doesn't come on after, fasting for a few days. It's the systematic denial of food and nutrition. This kid is now at the point where you can see his ribs, and he's knocking on the door, no shoes on, wrist and ankles bleeding. And he's saying, please, I'm starving. I need something to drink. Can you help me? And he points over to the Hildebrandt house. He's like, I just, climbed out the window. And the old man, I guess he was an older guy, says, on the 911 call, he says that he has had trouble with this location several times. So this wasn't the first incident to kind of pull the spotlight on this house. This was kind of like the last house on the left, or the house of 1,000 corpses. This was a house of horrors for these kids, So, this guy starts crying. This guy, he doesn't even know this kid just from seeing him in this state. As another human being, he starts friggin' crying. Imagine the state of this kid, that it made a grown man cry. It's not his kid, I mean, I get it. I know, when I see somebody suffering, I feel it. I know exactly what that feels like. But to be moved to tears, that takes some doing.
Well, that's what I'm saying, man. When it comes to children, it's a completely different animal, because if a man comes to your door and he's all beat up, okay, there's probably not going to be any tears.
A man can defend himself, no matter if he's a 98-pound weakling or a 250-pound bruiser.
Yeah.
A man can at least throw a couple blows, get in there, maybe duck and cover. Dodge and weave, get himself out of there, outrun the guy, do something. But a kid at this age, no, man, they can't defend themselves. They could barely defend themselves on the playground against other kids their own age.
Anybody that's willing to do that type of behavior to children is willing to take the consequences in prison. And I just pray that whatever prison this lady goes into in America, that they do all that can be done.
Well, I think that they went up for 2 bail hearings and they were denied both times. So apparently the second time, they were denied bail because there was so much evidence coming in that the defense was like, you know, we need to go through all this, you know. And the prosecution was like, I'm not, you know, we're not comfortable giving bail to somebody when we haven't seen all the evidence. And the evidence that we have seen is pretty conclusive that these are both child abusers, you know, the lowest scum of the earth, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like, you know, I mean, I don't mean to bring up serial killers every time, but, you know, you have guys like Gacy, you know, who killed boys. Dean Coral killed boys, you know, not men, but boys. They weren't children. They weren't like 12-year-olds, 9-year-olds. And I'm not saying it's any better, but I'm saying these women are even, you know, worse.
There's a level of innocence, because when you're dealing with pure innocence, for instance, like my son's only 9, right? He's still got that level of innocence inside him, where you know, if I do something out of the norm, like if I get road rage or something, he's looking at me as if to say, why the fuck did you just do that? Why would you, Daddy, why would you get so angry like that? And then I have to sort of check myself. Now, when I'm by myself, I'm screaming. Do you know what I mean? That bastard cut me off. Do you know what I mean? I'm tailgating. Yeah. I'm in rage. Do you know what I mean? That happened. So, but normal adults can check themselves and go, right, I'm not going to do this around children. Now, to go one step further, to then have your whole child's life devoted around torture techniques. If they looked a certain way, if they watch a certain TV program, I'm taking their bed away from them. I'm starving them. I'm duct taping them. I'm chaining them to the bloody bedroom. That type of stuff there is non-human stuff. That I have to really emphasize. People that do that type of stuff, they aren't human. There's not. They may have the cells of a human. They may have the eyes of a human, the appearance of a human, but that isn't what the person that you've just watched there on the screen isn't a woman. Women don't do that. That doesn't have a maternal bone in its body. And
I can relate to that because I put my mother in the same category. You know, she didn't even stick around long enough to duct tape me. She was gone while I was still in the hospital, you know. So you know, I get it. I mean, I know what it's fortunately, you know, I had my grandmother who was able to reverse most of that, you know, like negative feelings that I would have toward, I would feel much worse, about this woman if I, had to deal with the, abandonment my whole life. I mean, I did in a way, but, you know, abuse can come in many forms. Neglect is definitely abuse. But physical abuse, you know, that stems from the systematic breakdown of a family, you know, that's something where, you know, people say, well, you know, you can always turn to the church, but when you look here and you see that the church is complicit, and you know, this church is so cult-like, you know, it's like there's a very cult-like mentality to this. And
so what can I ask you a question? What was the father's role? Before we go on to Jody here, right? The real devil in the story, the one who sort of
she was the puppet master. She was like John Kramer, you know. She was like, you know, John Kramer and Saul. Before
we actually speak about her, because she was the enforcer of that sort of wicked doctrine. But who was the father, and what was his role in this?
His name is Kevin Franke, and he's kind of just like, you know, a wishy-washy type guy who. I mean, you would have to be a spineless type dude to be married to a person like her. You know what I mean? I couldn't stand to be in a room with a woman like that. That she's just so materialistic, so controlling, so manipulative, so cold-hearted. How could you love somebody like that unless you have either some kind of paraphilia fetish or some kind of abuse that you're trying to come to terms with? And I think that's what Kevin Franke is. He's just a spineless guy who let her call all the shots for the family and for him. He didn't step in when he could have to at least diminish some of the abuse. He was part of the YouTube channel, you know, so whether, you know, he was just saying, look, man, this coin is just rolling in too fast for me to make waves. You know, I'm going to just let her do what she wants to do, and I'm going to buy, you know, season tickets to. So
he was a beta male, and he didn't stand up for his children. He let this woman do all these terrible things to his children.
Absolutely.
And he just took, and as she said, she sort of sexually manipulated him, maybe just to take a back seat to move out of the house. Yeah, honey, it's fine. The kids are fine. You just go get the season tickets. Maybe we need a little break. You go out with the boys, have a few beers.
That's what she when she hooked up with Hildebrandt kind of said, look, your marriage is on thin ice. You're going to have to do something about it. I recommend you get Kevin out of the house, and then you guys can work on repairing things. Now, I mean, that advice just doesn't even sound right. You know, if I have an argument with my wife, I don't move out, you know. I mean, I don't tell her, look, you know, the best way for us to handle this, I'm going to grab my guitars and hit the road. You know, I mean, it's just not the way a normal marriage works. And especially you don't go outside to, you know, an embarrassed or decredited therapist who, you know, has allegations, you know, from here to kingdom come leveled against her, and take marriage advice from this person who, I might add, is not married. You know?
Yes, and just to round it up, the father was a beta male, took a back step, didn't care about the abuse to his children, but he was. You have to understand, Jody, to sort of break this down, Jody still needed him out of the house for her to implement the torture onto the children. So he must, because of that, the masculinity that he did bring to the table, she needed that masculinity out of the house. So then there was no pushback, because if he had a scene, he mustn't have been witnessing the real deep sadistic sadist type torture that she was projecting onto the kids then. So she obviously thought, I need him out of the house for us to implement these things.
Right. Now that's a good theory. There's another theory out there that Ruby Franke and Jody Hildebrandt kind of took it to the next level and became romantically involved, to put it, you know.
Is that not against Mormon beliefs, though?
I would think it would be, you know, but look, shouldn't child abuse be against Mormon beliefs?
No, 100%. But under their doctrine, this might be this. For instance, the Mormons could be super conservative, super religious, and they could be thinking, "Well, we're doing this for the greater good." I'm not excusing it. I still would love to have 5 minutes in the room with this lady to teach her my type of a lesson. But what I'm trying to say is, the rhyme and reason for this is, this is for the greater good, maybe on the mother's standpoint. But with this, we'll move into Jody now. But in regards to Jody, she's the real evil. She's the entity that's sort of pushing these techniques on.
Well, she was the catalyst, you know. I mean,
we'll start off like, what's the background of Jody? What was her job? Where did she go to school? What's the information on Jody here?
Well, obviously she's, you know, educated in Utah. I don't know if it was Brigham Young or one of the smaller schools, probably. She received a master's in I think marriage counseling, or just counseling. Some probably some other psychology credits, I'm sure, that go hand in hand with all these things. Again, I'm assuming that based on what a therapist should be, when you factor in these Church of Latter-day Saints goofballs, you know, I don't know what their criteria is. I mean, maybe, you know, you just have to you know, believe in the magic tablets or whatever. But you know,
like I've came up with better. I have to say I've came up with better sort of religious ideas off my
me
head
too.
magic
Come
mushrooms.
on.
Do you know what I mean? Like
you
that,
know.
like just on a side note, this, you know, the Mormon religion in itself is just wacky. Like, let's take the Bible, but let's actually let's give the Bible magic mushrooms. There you go.
Yeah.
That's the Mormon religion. It's
Right.
the Bible
It's
and
like
magic
Willy
mushroom.
Wonka wrote this book. You know what I mean? It's like there's so much ludicrous, like okay, this guy Brigham Young, you know, he starts this university. It's like respected all over the country. People go there, and you know, they're like, oh yeah, this is a prestigious school. But you know, these kids were all taken out of school at like the 8th grade level and then educated at home. So, you know, what's the grade point? What's the standard to get in Brigham Young? You know, I don't know. Or I'm sure they have to have non-Mormon students, or do you have to be a Mormon to go there? I don't know.
Listen, I would say they probably would take anybody. It's, you know, anybody that would just listen to their shit. It's like the Jehovah's Witnesses. They come around. If you listen to them, you're going to be their best friend. But so when
they're nutty too.
You know, they are nutty. Trust me, that's a separate podcast. I've got my own experiences with the witnesses. But see, in regards to Jody, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Jody gets in contact. What's the mother's name again? Sorry.
Ruby Franke.
Oh yeah, Ruby Franke. So Jody gets in contact with Ruby Franke via the church then.
I think it was more of a social media meeting kind of thing, like, because they both now and Ruby Franke, you know, her sisters have YouTube channels. Apparently, like, this is like all this family does is social media. That's what I mean. They literally do it to the point where they are living, you know, the good life off of, you know, having, you know, I'm a content creator. I'm an influencer. That's what I do. I don't have to, I don't punch a clock. I make my own rules, you know. And the thing about that is, okay, you're pretty much left unchecked until something outside of the platform goes wrong. You know, like, say these allegations against them for child abuse. Okay, now YouTube's going to yank the cord, you know, but up until then, hey man, don't give your kid lunch. That's but we want to see this. We want to watch this.
And if there's any, you know what, obviously nobody from YouTube will watch this here, but if you are watching from YouTube, you have to understand you are also complicit in this, because you allowed that
any person who was a subscriber to that is complicit, as far as I'm concerned.
You allowed that woman to put content out there with her abusing her children, while at the same time taking down content of people that were talking about an experimental liquid that the government wanted to inject into people. Let that sink in. Use absolute whack jobs. There is proof that all this shit right now is just full of just psychopaths that are promoting shit. Now, so Jody then says to Ruby, get the father out of the house. And does she move into the house then?
I don't think, now the Franke household, no, but Ruby, she starts spending most of her time at the Hildebrandt home. And from what I understand and what I've seen, she also lives in a pretty palatial type, you know, I mean, it's definitely not the hood, you know. They live in a well-to-do neighborhood where the neighbors are, you know, probably professors, lawyers, you know, things of that nature. So, you know, they're hobnobbing with the upper echelon of this Mormon community. But I don't think everybody was cool with it. You know, I think there was a good number of people in the community that were like, we see some weird shit going on at this house. You know, we see some crazy stuff going on. And then I guess it's only a short jump to go and check out the YouTube channel, and you see, oh, here they are. These are the two nutty women that are, you know, always, you know, taping their kids up and you know, not allowing bikinis in the hot tub and all this other crazy shit.
You see,
know?
I don't even have an issue with that, right? I don't even have an issue with the whole fact with, like, if a mother doesn't want their child to wear a bikini, that's 100% fine by me, right?
At a certain age, yeah, I agree. I agree.
That doesn't matter to me. That, you know, those things really don't bother me. It's the sort of the starvation, the physical,
right.
the physical.
You have
torture.
To take it as a whole package. You know,
I get that. There's psychological torture. That the fact that
right.
they weren't allowed friends, she would remove the bed.
Right.
She pushed them to the brink of death. Now, what made Jody so different from Ruby?
I think they were cut from the same cloth. I think that Ruby aspired to be like Jody. You know, I think she saw her and she was like, wow, I can actually, you know, take this to the next level and you know, have you know, status in the church and you know, because that's what she is. She's a status seeker. She's a status seeker. She's a gold digger. But then she found out that she didn't need Kevin Franke. I forget what his job was. You know, he was no slouch. He was doing all right too. But once she found out, you know, I can do it on my own just by creating content. I don't need this joker. You know what I mean? I can hang out with my girl Jody and we can get this done ourselves. So bye-bye, Kevin Franke. And he was okay with not seeing his kids for 14 months.
Was Ruby still having sex with the husband? Was he able to go out and sleep with other women and he just didn't give a shit? I don't think so.
No. I think they weren't divorced. They didn't have like proceedings filed or anything. I think they were just a mutual separation, I guess, or a trial separation.
I don't see how that right. I have to look at it, right. How does that
I mean, I'm Catholic like you, so you know what I mean. The whole idea of divorce, I just didn't grow up with that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You know, I get that, but it's like, where's so how's he benefiting from this? He's got the kids. He doesn't have the kids. He left the kids. He left the kids, but he has the kids there. He knows that his kids are there. It's not like she says, leave the house and don't come back. You're not allowed to see your kids. She
does. She says,
right. Okay.
She says you can't come and see them just out of the blue. You know, she's running everything. You know, she's like, you want to see the kids? You have to call. You have to set something up. Basically make an appointment to see your kids.
Here we go.
Like he couldn't intervene and take that kid a sandwich. He couldn't do that.
Yeah, that's so. What also
he could have, but you know.
So also what we've exposed here is that the court system set up in the United States, that parental alienation actually forced these children into a really bad situation. And if the situation was set up where there was 50-50 custody, say, then these kids wouldn't have been tortured and starved like they were.
No. And look, there was no restraining order against Kevin Franke. He could have grown a pair and gone up to the door, banged on the door, you know, but these kids, dig this. These kids were so brainwashed that the police were sent to the house for a wellness check, right? The police are banging on the door. They see the kids. They see them in there. Now, this happened after the 12-year-old escaped. So they go and, you know, check on the other kids. They're banging on the door. They see the kids. the kids won't open the door because they've been instructed by Hildebrandt and Franke, don't open the door for anybody. You know, these are uniformed police officers banging on the door saying, open up, we're the police, we're here to make sure you're okay. And these kids know that they need intervention. They know that they need help. One of their siblings just, you know, escaped, but they won't open the door for the police. And dig this. This is the real kicker. The police leave. They don't call for backup. They don't call and say, hey, we need whatever unit it is to come out and jack this door up. You know, now if they were drug dealers or something and they looked in and saw, you know, people bagging up heroin, oh yeah, they would have said, look, we need somebody to kick this door in right now. We need, you know, but see, in a normal case like that, you need a search warrant, but there's something called imminent danger. If you look in and see somebody with their wrists slit, or somebody, you know, with a gun in their mouth, or somebody being, you know, pounded in the face by their husband, that's imminent danger. You don't need to call up and say, I need a search warrant for 1313 Mockingbird Lane because something hinky's going on. No. You see somebody whose life is in imminent danger, you take it upon yourself by the power of your badge, and you kick the door in, and you get those kids out of there, and you take them to the hospital, and you make sure they're okay, and you get them some food, you know. But these Utah cops, they're a different breed. I guess, you know, they had to consult the magic tablets before they.
Well,
before
I was going to say that was there an element to this that because it was in Utah?
Of course, yes.
And she would have been a well-known figure within the Mormons, that the cops just took a back step because they thought, well, not her. She wouldn't be doing something bad to her kids.
Well, put it this way: when obviously she was known to some of the cops on the job, because the cops that I guess you would call the first responders or first on the scene, they didn't know who Ruby Franke was. They I think they reported her as Rose Franke or something like that. And the person that he called you know, put the call into said, no, you mean Ruby Franke. So obviously she was known to at least some police officers or some people that work in some capacity for the police, whether it's just the 911 operators or what. But I mean, I see what you're getting at, and I think that you might be onto something. They were obviously connected going.
Yeah, it maybe wasn't. It wasn't a grand conspiracy though. Of you know, there isn't more of these.
Yes, I think there is, but not on Ruby Franke's part, on Jody Hildebrandt's part.
Right.
I think she was way connected in the Mormon Church.
So, do you think that Jody has created more monsters, and there's other monsters out there abusing their own children?
I think so. And I think there's more. There's more people coming forward now saying that they were abused, manipulated, brainwashed by Hildebrandt in previous years. You know, when she had her license before it was revoked or suspended or whatever they did to it, because once she was sanctioned or had these sanctions levied against her, she couldn't practice therapy as somebody who says, I have an office here, you make an appointment, you come see me. She couldn't do that, but she could go on YouTube. She could have a channel called Connections Classroom. She could give all the parenting advice she wanted on there, all the marital advice she wants, you know, and destroy countless families. You know,
so then, so So she, prior to this actually all coming out about Ruby, in regards to Jody, she had sanctions on her as a counselor or as like a shrink or like a family counselor.
A counselor, therapist.
What were they? What was the red flags prior to this?
Abuse, you know, mental abuse, kind of the advice she was given was counterintuitive to keeping people together. You know, people were complaining to, I guess, I don't know what their people are called in the Church of Latter-day Saints. I know they're not priests. I don't know if they're pastors or whatever, but people were complaining to the administration of the church, and the church jumped in and said, hey, wait a minute, what's going on? You know, Jody Hildebrandt, that's our girl. We send people to her all the time. You know, and then come to find out, well, look, she's doing some nutty stuff. You know, this is some like.
And did the Mormon Church back her even when she was sort of called out and scrutinized for her techniques, her sort of counseling techniques?
Yes.
Did they financially?
I don't know about the financial part. I don't know. They were, well, yeah, obviously, if you're sending some of my clients, that's sending them financial help because the clients are paying them. So yeah, they're generating revenue. So yes, they are backing her financially. But dig this, you know, after the suspension of the license, I think I'm pretty sure that I'm positive that her license was eventually returned to her, and she was able to practice again, and the church continued to send her clients. They didn't say, well, look, this is that nutty woman that we were having all the complaints about before. So maybe we shouldn't deal with her. No, they didn't do that. Not until the arrest.
There's a guard here says not what happened. I don't know if she's I don't know, Holly, if you've seen the full thing, what we've spoke about here. A man whose marriage is ruined sued her aunts. I don't know what that means. I apologize, Holly. And then she goes on to say, and the saw that was giving private info to the church, medical records. So listen, I don't know what you mean by that, Holly. I apologize about that. But maybe that's more. Maybe you're talking about what was more. But what Shawn's saying here is you've researched this whole story, haven't you?
Yeah.
So this is researched, and maybe what you're talking about, Holly, is actually even more information.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that, you know, I'm like, you know, I have you know, explicit insight into the case. I mean, I got my information where everybody else is free to get theirs, you know.
So this is what Holly meant. So she was caught giving the church a man's medical records.
Yes, absolutely. That is correct. That is correct. That was the main catalyst that set everything off for her. She was speaking about clients who were supposed to have an assumption of confidentiality, and she was caught speaking about them to the church officials. That is exactly what started it. And
then it was just like a sort of the floodgates opening of all this chaos.
But I'm sorry, I don't have my glasses on. I can't see the person's name who said that. But that is absolutely Holly. That is absolutely the pivotal event was, and it wasn't just one. It was one that kind of like you know, opened the doors, but she had done this on numerous occasions when she violated people's confidentiality. And, you know, I mean, I see a therapist. I don't want them talking to other people about the crazy shit I tell them, you know. I expect that the stuff that I say, you know, is not going any further. I mean, that's the way therapy works, you know. So when you feel like you're talking to somebody and they're telling the whole community, and you know, you walk into, I don't know, some whatever the church service is called, and everybody stops and turns around and looks at you and like, oh, that's the person that Jody Hildebrand told, you know, Pastor Johnson about, or, you know, whatever.
Holly said told people he was a serial predator. Is that one of the reasons why she give medical records away? Because her client
now see, that's going a little bit, I never heard that, but I mean, in that case, she's absolutely justified, because if there's they're called mandatory reporters. Therapists are mandatory reporters. If you mention hurting someone else or yourself, they have to report that. I never heard that the guy was a serial predator. I never.
Oh no, so she told people. So what sorry, Holly, I'm picking you up wrong here. So I'm assuming what Holly meant there is that with the information that Holly's provided, thank you very much for getting involved, Holly. Thank you for that. She told people he was a serial predator, and then she did the same thing she did to Ruby, made the man move out of his house.
Yes,
and said because he watched pork. I'm assuming she means porn.
Yes,
he was a predator. Wow. Okay. So she's so you've got a top manipulator here then. Thank you very much for that information, Holly.
And Jody Hildebrand also took her own niece, and she had, like, her thing was having this super long hair, so she cut off all of her hair. She just constantly berated her, said that told people that she was addicted to porn, addicted to masturbation, you know, all these terrible things about her own niece. So the fact that she would say that one of her clients is a serial predator, I totally buy that. Yeah.
Yeah. So what you're dealing with here is basically, you have a mother, a sadist mother, right, who's done this to her children, but actually the real devil in this story is Jody and the possible other people that she's manipulated to live this certain way, not even to project this onto children, but just to maybe live a very, very unhealthy lifestyle, maybe teaching people narcissistic traits, teaching people to be sort of bad in their own life, lying about them, making them into liars. And then the bad side to that is that she's possibly trained more mothers, and there's more mothers out there abusing their own children off the back of Jody, and begs the question, how many Jodys is there?
Right. But, you know, Ruby Franke was already on the road to being like that, and before she hooked up with her, that just exacerbated the problem. She was a multiplier for Ruby Franke. Ruby Franke was already you know, an abusive mother. She, you know, there's a video. The first video I saw of her was the one daughter. Her school was going to do like a flash mob thing where they were going to, like, you know, dance, and it was for like a physical education thing. And I don't remember what the song was. It was, I don't know, probably like Lady Gaga or something like that. Something that, you know, a Mormon mother is going to not really be that happy about. But she flipped out, dude. She was crying when she was on the phone saying, I don't want my kids to, you know, this is not right. I say what they can listen to. This is not right. This is, you know, like saying, I guess, like, if you listen to, and again, I forgot what band or musician it was, but, you know, if you listen to Lady Gaga, you're gonna worship the devil or whatever, you know. And she was flipping out, but the bottom line is she was flipping out because somebody else was making a decision for her kids that she couldn't stop. She couldn't get in there and say, no, this thing has to stop, because the school was like, this is part of the curriculum. This is happening, you know. So, you know,
right. So what I want to talk about now is the Mormon Church in itself. For this segment, I want to talk about just the Mormon Church. So we've established that it's based on sort of, you know, it has a whack job doctrine. It has this sort of, it's like the Bible on magic mushrooms. So, right, how many Mormons are there in the United States alone? To, you know, is this a thing that we should be looking at? Is this a cult? It's a religion, but is this actually
a religion?
But is it a cult?
I think it's. There are cult-like elements to this religion. Let's put it that way. I think that the fact that it's so large, I think that's I guess the deciding factor that makes it a religion is because it has a doctrine. You know, it has places of worship. It has, you know, a system of dogmatic belief. But to me, you know, what's the difference between that and David Koresh? You know, if they'd have let him go on for as long as, you know, Joseph Smith and all these.
It's a kind of like a remnants of. I always go back to this, and I don't want to seem like I'm a full-on blown conspiracy theorist, even though I am. But it's the Mormon Church and the people that's being exposed about them. It's like some type of weird remnants of like 1940s MK Ultra. I think it's. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, but I think it's almost like a holdover from the Salem witch trials. I think they're like puritanical. You know, I think they're like. I mean, to me, it's like, okay, you have dangerous cults, you know, like, you know, Guyana, Jim Jones, you know, these ones that everybody's heard of, you know, Charles Manson to some, you know, but the Mormon Church, I think it's more insidious, more dangerous because, you know, when it gets all the protections of a church and a religion, and that way they can propagate this ridiculous doctrine. But not only that, they control a whole state. They control a whole state. You know, if you're not a Mormon, I've met a bunch of people from Utah. I mean, when I used to skateboard, for some reason, I would constantly run into people who ran away from Utah, and they would be at this skate park that I used to go to. And I would always talk to them. And I used to love this band called The Used, and they were from Utah. And I was like, well, there has to be some cool people in Utah. I mean, The Used are from Utah. I mean, it can't all be these Church of Latter-day goofballs. It can't just be that. But apparently such a high percentage of this state not only practices this religion, but is involved in it up to their elbows, that, you know, when you get pulled over by a cop, you know, you're going to say, oh, hey, I remember you from whatever Looney Tune service, you know, and that, you know, that's just the way things are. Whereas, like, if I get pulled over and they say, hey, you know, some atheist guy, it doesn't come with any benefits.
It's like for instance, if I'm Catholic, you're Catholic, right? You live in the United States, I live in Ireland, right? So if we meet each other, I don't automatically go, oh well, you're a cop, Shawn. Are you a Catholic? Yeah. Listen, can we just forget about this speeding ticket? Yeah, sure. You're a Catholic, but in Utah, it's like, oh, you're a Mormon. I'm a Mormon. Okay. I didn't see you going 100.
It's like the secret handshake, you know.
Like is it Masonic then? Is there a Masonic element to all of this?
That's why I said there's very cult-like elements to it, you know.
Wow.
It's like, hey, I got the secret decoder ring. I got the Mormon secret decoder ring. Can you forget this ticket? You know, I know I ran over.
Wouldn't it be crazy, right? If you went to Utah, right, you just went and there was like a temple, right, and you go in, you just put the secret ring in, you open it up, It opens up like this fucking door, this stone door. You walk in through the stone door, and there's just like like things that just exist, entities that just exist with hoods on. You walk in, they just hand you a magic mushroom. You eat it, next minute you're blasted off into fucking some.
Or you drink the Kool-Aid, like
the Kool-Aid, and
you know?
you're drinking fucking. It's like their version of Coca-Cola on acid. You're just blasted into space, and you just know the history of everything. And actually, the Mormon religion's real. That's the one that you like.
Yeah, that would be crazy.
Shit, and the whole state, of Utah is controlled by this shit.
Yes, a whole state, a whole state, man. And I'm not saying that all Mormons live in Utah. There are Mormons in other places. This is a worldwide thing, you know. I mean, it's
Holly says touching yourself is the same as committing murder to them. Jesus Christ, lock me up. I'm going to the prison for the rest of my life. I'm in solitary confinement for the rest of my life. What is going on here? What, like,
that's why I said they're puritanical. They're puritanical. Like I don't know. Okay, a few years ago there were these magazines. One was called FHM, and one was called Blender, and they were like you know, every magazine would feature like a celebrity on the cover in a bikini or something. Okay, forget that. Here's a better example. The Mormon Church believes the Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition is pornography. The Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition is pornography.
You see, this is where I have to be careful, right? Because I do believe we're living in an era where they're trying to sexualize everything.
I agree with that, but you know what I mean? There's some things that are still, some things can be a bit you know, sexy or whatever.
I get that. It's like, for instance,
and there's still some wholesomeness to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get you. Like, at the end of the day, we're humans. We can't just be, you know, obviously we can denounce Balenciaga. We can say Balenciaga was definitely doing something shady in regards to kids. 100%. That's what I'm against. But at the same time, if you have like a catalog, or like, I don't know, it's some online shop and it's just swim shorts for kids, that isn't what it is. They're not selling what, you know, they're not selling CP like Balenciaga. So we need to be able to differentiate the two. But to a certain degree, they would be considered right-wing extremists.
Yes.
But then in the same breath, they're actually complicit in destroying children.
Yes.
So it's like there's some weird hybrid right-wing. I don't know what that is, man.
It's exactly, where do they fit in? You know,
like right-wing to me is like John Wayne coming in. You don't know how to swim? I'll teach you how to swim, and he throws you into the river. Just grab that water and pull it behind you. To me, that's right-wing. Do you know what I mean? And it's like there's something to that, just sort of like die-hard, like masculine men, what we need. But then you've got the ultra to this, where it's like, you know, you've got a whole state under a cult rule, where basically if you don't apply yourself to their doctrine, then you're considered
evil. Or,
evil.
You know,
but actually they're the ones that are evil, because they're destroying children.
That's the thing. You know, that's the thing. Wow. That's why, you know, I mean, you know, everybody in the 70s and 80s.
Sorry, no, I was just saying peace out to Robert Lee there.
Okay. I thought you were saying wait a second, hold up a second.
Oh no, sorry, no, go ahead. If I do that, I'm just saying peace out to somebody in the chat.
You know, in the 70s and 80s, during what was called the Satanic Panic, you know, everybody was pointing the finger at Anton LaVey and his organization and saying, you know, these people are responsible for sacrificing babies, abusing children, raping women, all this terrible, terrible stuff, none of which was true, you know. And it got to the point where in order to join Anton LaVey's organization, you cannot have any criminal record. any offenses. People say, well, Richard Ramirez was a Satanist involved in Anton LaVey's organization. Yes, but he was a non-active member. You know, he was not a spokesperson for the Church of Satan.
He wasn't a Satanist. He was a devil worshiper. We need to be able to differentiate.
That's what I was getting to. That's what I was building up to. Okay, the difference is with Anton LaVey's group and the Mormons. Now, hear me out here. This is a group that has cloaked itself in goodness, you know, so as to say, you know, we follow what Jesus told us when he came to America. Come on, man. If Jesus ever lived, he never came to America. That's ridiculous. That's insane. That takes the insanity of the Bible and times it by 1,000. You know what I mean?
But that's America's complete detachment away from Europe. You have to understand.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it.
You know what I mean?
Because yes, America didn't have any ties to a Christian let's say
a Christian teaching,
like the Catholic Church or even the Protestant or Lutheran Church. You know what I mean?
A bit of a pushback to that, though. There was information found in South America where they had that were in the. I don't know if it was scriptures or put onto the tablets, but on the tablets, I need to actually get the full information for this. I'm gonna butcher this, but the premise of it was that on these tablets, it said that white men came across the water floating with blonde hair and taught us how to cultivate the land. Now, that was in South America. I'm not saying that actually happened. They were just written onto tablets. And I think it was the Olmecs or the Aztecs or the Native Americans of some kind wrote this. But generally speaking, you know, America has this detachment to speak about Jesus, to speak about Christianity, but actually, let's face facts here. The whole premise of and the whole baseline of America before Christianity was there was 100% total paganism.
Sure, right. You know,
so
because
they were already established people with a way of life.
Right. So when people say Columbus discovered America, that's like saying somebody breaks in my house and discovered my house. No, I already live here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's you know, it's that's why I have a problem. I mean, I'm American, but I have a problem with the sort of, you know, good guy badges and tough Tony attitude, like you said, John Wayne, you know, being like the most iconic and most stereotypical macho male American. You know, that's all crap.
But I think even John Wayne would like. This is what we'll have to be able to sort of differentiate from. Is one, we love our John Wayne characters, masculine, they run society, they're needed, right? But we cannot look by historical facts. Like America, okay, it was built after Christianity was there, like fully to what it is today.
Yeah,
but
of course, America's only 250 years old.
It wasn't founded by Christianity. There was already cultivation on the land. There was already temples. There was already people there was already civilization there.
There was already a religion of the land. You know,
exactly.
What I mean? There was already
exactly. So you have you have America very detached away from, where Europe, where not just Europe but the Middle East, where Jesus was born, and they feel that, oh, well, there's a great distance between us. Maybe this land isn't holy enough, so they have to come up with a whack job religion like the Mormon religion.
Right, yeah, to
localize it, to have this, oh, this is ours.
To legitimize it.
Yeah.
To
basically, the Mormon religion is just like the American Bible.
I mean, that's exactly what this guy Joseph Smith sought out to do. You know, I mean, he was basically like a stage magician, You know, he would do these readings, you know, and it was a bunch of like table tapping and kind of, you know, stuff like that. You know, I mean, it started out as such a, I mean, weird thing but the fact that it actually caught on to this degree is mind-boggling. It's
but man,
literally,
look at Scientology. Me and Holly Provençal done a whole series in Scientology. Hopefully Holly can jump on next week. She's going to jump on. We're going to have fucking see, once Holly jumps on, she's going to add an extra layer to this shit, because she, along with yourself, are two fucking geniuses in the world of research. I'm just the fucking idiot that asked the questions. So when Holly's going to be jumping on next week, hopefully she was supposed to jump on tonight. She couldn't. But you know, she's talked about Scientology caught on, man. Like you have to understand, if you're selling something to people that can help people, well, portray to help people, they're going to buy that shit.
I've read Dianetics, and it's, you know, it's, first of all, L. Ron Hubbard was a science fiction writer who actually wrote an episode of Star Trek along with tons of pulp science fiction novels. He, you know, he wasn't a prophet. He didn't profess to be anything more than a guy who had some insight into the psychological workings of the human mind. When I was a kid, there used to be a television commercial for the Dianetics book, and it was presented as a psychology book.
I seen that on TikTok the other day, the advertisement for Dianetics. There was like, I wish I had a time machine where I could go back in time and say, no, stop this.
Yeah. I was like 5 when that commercial used to come on TV, and I used to see it, and I used to be like, what is Dianetics? What is this? You know, even at 5, because the commercial is like, you know, the book comes up and it like, there's an explosion. And it's like Dianetics, you know, it's like a Marvel comic, you know?
Yeah, that's what it is. L. Ron Hubbard was a writer, and this motherfucker never wrote a second draft in his life. He wrote down in his paper what he was on. Whenever he was taking magic mushrooms, he wrote that down in the paper, and he says, this is my Bible. I'm going to get tax-free cash, baby, and people are going to lap this shit up. There's ghosts in your fingers, and that's just the way it is, cocksuckers. And everybody ran with it. Everybody ran with it, and it's like Tom Cruise, a little 5 foot.
That's what I was saying. Once you get the celebrities,
you know,
once you get the celebrities on board, you know what I mean.
Big up Tom Cruise, by the way. I love Tom Cruise, but listen, you're a midget with a medallion, man. Come on, let's face facts here. But listen, big up Tom Cruise. Big up Tom Cruise. He's a fucking amazing actor. But let's face facts here. This guy, you know, how can you believe that your body's made up with individual entities and there's fucking aliens? Like, man, I want to become a Scientologist just because of the fact that if I took magic mushrooms as a Scientologist, I think the trip would be a lot better. I just have that feeling. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, the thing about Tom Cruise and Scientology is, you know, he used it he weaponized it against another celebrity, against Brooke Shields, who needed antidepressants, who needed, you know, psychological or psychiatric medication. And he, you know, like degraded her because he doesn't believe that you need psychiatric medication, you know. And personally, you know, as somebody who's gone through enough mental health issues, I've arrived at a point where I can accept the fact that maybe you don't need medication for the rest of your life, but you do need it to get through some of the harder aspects of depression, schizoaffective disorder, some of these more serious psychological ailments. But, you know, to say like, oh, I'm depressed, I need Xanax. No, that's not how it works. You know what I mean? But if you have a good doctor, somebody who is a responsible prescriber, they give you what you need, you take it, you get better, you move on. Tom Cruise weaponized a religion against a person and caused a lot of psychological damage.
Yeah, but once again, we have to be able to differentiate between there's wrongs on both sides. So there's doctors overprescribing medication.
Yes. That's why I said. That's why I made the stipulation of responsible prescriber.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, a response, but we never really fucking get them, dude. It's very far and few between.
Yes, that's true too.
And then you have these other whack jobs like Tom Cruise saying, "Don't take this medication because the entities in your fucking fingers don't like it," and that's basically how it is. So, you know, what you do, you have to fucking self-regulate yourself and go, look, I'm not going to get involved in these whack job cults, but at the same time, but at the same time, I have to be skeptical of things because I can't just listen to the doctor all the time.
You have to be able to ask questions, man.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? So we went off on a mad one there, and that's what I love about these conversations. we just talk about everything. But so is she? Where is Ruby, Frank right now, and Jody? Where are these two girls right now?
They're in a Utah jail. I believe it's a county jail. They lived outside of Salt Lake City. I forgot what the name of the county was, but they're both being held there without bail as of this time. I'm sure they're definitely trying to get bail, because if you live in a $3 million home, you don't want to stay in a 6x9 cell.
How much is bail? How much is their bail?
It hasn't been set yet, but see, the bail system in America is a ransom system. It's not. They say you're innocent until proven guilty. However, you can be yanked out of your car on the side of the road, taken to a commissioner who says, "Oh, somebody said that you raped them." You know, let's really put it out there and say a terrible thing. Yeah. Somebody says that you did that. You are going to go see a commissioner. The commissioner is going to look at the charges. According to those charges and your past record, if you have one, he's going to assess a bail. The potential sentence, if it's in excess of 10 years, maybe it's 25 to life, you know, depending on what state you're in. I mean, because look at what's his name, Masterson from that 70s show. He just got 30 to life. Some states sentence you like that. 30 to life means in 30 years you'll see the parole board. They might say you can get out.
Oh, that is a fucking stretch, my man.
Yes, because normally it means life. Normally it means life. Very few people who get a sentence like that ever, or if they do make parole, it's closer to like double. Like, say if you get 25 to life, you might make parole in 50 years, you know? And then by the time you get out, you're so institutionalized, you're just banging on the door to get back in.
But anyway, see next week, I want to talk about that guy, because I want to break that story down, because I've been speaking to a few people in regards to that guy from that 70s show, Matheson.
Okay.
They told me that he was innocent, that he didn't do any of those things.
I mean, you know, again,
so I want to break that story down. Maybe that's something we could speak about next week as a segment. But yeah, sorry, go ahead. I went off.
Okay, so when these commissioners who are just officers of the court, they're not judges, they're not lawyers, they're just officers of the court. And what they do is, like I said, they look at your charge, the potential sentence if you're found guilty, and your past record. And they say, okay, well, you're facing a pretty hefty amount of time, so you're a flight risk, in my opinion. So let me throw an extra 10 grand on there because you're a flight risk. Okay. Do you have means to get out of the country? So I want you to surrender your passport. Okay. Plus, you're facing, 30 to life. I'm going to make this bail $250,000.
So what in your opinion, what do you think their bail will be? Because they would definitely be a flight risk, like, because
I think it's going to be pretty high. I think it'll be probably $1 million maybe, but they go through a bail bonds, but they'll probably just put up their house, you know, because if they do plan on going to trial, they'll get the deed to their house back when everything's finished and when they show up for all their court appearances. So, but if they flee, then, you know, the state of Utah is going to repossess that house. And
yeah, but it's over. They're going to get convicted, man.
Sure they are. Yeah. If so they don't, you know, there should be riots in the street of Utah. And,
yeah, but like, so this is why if there's bail, if they make bail for any stretch of the imagination, without a shadow of a doubt, they're gone. They're crossing that border into Mexico, and you're never seeing them again. Like,
right, you know, and they have resources. So, you know, when this commissioner sets the bail, well, in this case, it's not going to be a commissioner; it is going to be a judge, because they've already passed the stage of initial appearance. They're already past that. So they have to see a judge. Their bail has to be set by a judge. And if you're, you know, I believe the judge who's handling this case is named Judge Johnson, if I think. Anyway, but this guy, you know, if he gives them a bail and they get out, they flee, you know, he's going to be like the biggest villain in America until the next one comes along. You know,
100%, and that will point towards, like, you know, I'm going to be following this case. What I'll do is, right, we'll keep up to date with this. I'm sure they'll probably stream something live on YouTube in regards to that. So, I will actually, you know, do a fucking live reaction to that. I think that's because I want to know if there's any corruption involved with that, because, you know, there's not much more we can speak about. We've exposed everything, and we've talked about everything in regards to Ruby, Frank, Jody, the husband, the prison, bail conditions. We've talked about the Mormon Society. Right. So if there's any more updates in this, we'll do more live streams on this particular subject. Is there anything else you would like to speak about in regards to that whole subject?
Well, this is what I believe is happening. The prosecution is going to offer somebody a deal, and that somebody is going to be Kevin Franke, and they're going to go to him and they're going to say, look, you're culpable in this. You're chargeable, arrestable. You can go, you know, right where your wife is right now, or you can testify against her, you know. Now, that's
exactly what's going to happen.
Right.
You hit the nail in the head.
And, you know, there is a rule of law where you can't force a spouse to testify against another spouse. But in this case, he's not being coerced. He's being offered a deal. He's being, you know, I'm not saying this happened yet, but I believe it's going to happen. And they're going to say, you know, you're going to be looking at substantially less time or no time at all, maybe even granted immunity if you work with us. If you don't work with us, we're going to come after you like mad dogs. And we're going to make sure.
What about Ruby herself? Could she turn into a golden snitch and start snitching on shit?
Sure. Yeah, she's going to. Believe me, she's going to. She's gonna put it all on Jody Hildebrandt. She is gonna put it all on her.
The flip side to that, there, Jody will turn golden snitch off on the Mormons of the Mormon Church.
Sure.
So this is going to be a ripple effect, and I'm sure do you think the Mormons right now, the church and the local church and whatever, is lawyering up right now as we speak?
From what I've heard and the information that I've been able to find, yes, they are trying to put as much space between themselves and these two women as they possibly can. And they won't talk to the media, you know, which is pretty smart, but they won't, they just, like you said, you know, to use a TV term, they've lawyered up, you know.
if a prosecutor goes in there, right, to say I'm a prosecutor, right, and I ask the Mormon Church to come in as a witness, right, knowing that they actually could be up in charges themselves in the future. The question I would ask is, I have because me and you just talked about the evidence. The evidence is in the public domain. I would say,
Yeah.
I have substantial evidence that you referred Jody on to other people, knowing that she had a background of coercive control and behavior that went against certain legalities. You knew about her MO. She had an MO, and you still went ahead because you also believed in what she believed in. And in that case, you are also complicit in these children being tortured. And actually, you promoted this type of behavior onto children. I think a good prosecutor could go in there and dismantle what the Mormons are doing in Utah. I really do. I think if they do it right.
I mean, or she. I mean, if you had a real heroic prosecutor that really wanted to stop the systemic abuse of children within another church, you know, I mean, you could easily do it. You could go in there and just, you know, kick down doors, take files, just come in with a fistful of search warrants, and do it right and clean house. But, you know, that stuff happens in the movies. What's going to happen in reality is some backroom deal making. You know, there's going to be this one is going to turn on that one. But see, there's only so many times you can roll over. You know, I mean, Kevin Franke is the linchpin that could just bring the whole house of cards down. He could just tell the truth. That's all he has to do.
Well, how much does he actually know, though?
I mean, he was there for a good bit of those videos. You know, it was called 8 Passengers. He was one of the 8 passengers. You know, it was.
As YouTube took the 8 passengers down, can we?
Yeah, completely. That's like scrubbed.
You see how?
But that material still exists, and it's still in the hands of the prosecution and the defense.
And YouTube had to take. You have to understand, YouTube's also complicit in this, because
of course they are.
They promoted her up to 2.2 million subscribers when she was on the screen saying, this is the way I raise my kids, and basically it's
I starve my kids.
And YouTube promoted that.
Right.
YouTube promoted that. I have to say, though, to Melissa Neal, she says, I'll listen to anything Scientology related. I have a podcast with Claire Swayze. Just type in Holden Official Claire Swayze. And she's an ex-Scientologist. If you want to go and watch that podcast, because Melissa's always commenting on my channel. She's coming in live. So if you're like Scientology stuff, I done an interview with Claire Swayze, ex-Scientologist. And if you want, comment in the comment section after this here, and I will send you the link to that. But you can find that on my channel. Holden Official Claire Swayze. Very, very fascinating podcast, defector from Scientology. But yeah, man, 100%. Like, the think about this, right? Think about this. It's going to be a chain reaction. So Ruby's going to squeal, right? When I say squeal, she's going to snitch, right? Then Jody's going to snitch. No, so the husband's going to snitch. Then Jody's going to snitch. Or the Ruby's going to snitch, then Jody's going to snitch, and then this is going to be like a dominoes effect within the Mormons. Now, this is what I'm thinking, right? Netflix has to be on this. I guarantee Netflix are making a documentary about this right now. If Netflix makes a documentary about this, this is going to expose everything inside the Mormon Church, worse than the Catholic Church.
Just like my Scientology film. Did you watch that? You know, that guy is a genius. He's one of my heroes. He was one of my son's heroes. Everything he does is so unbiased and so just, you know, saying, look, this is going on. He doesn't like, you know, get in there and present a lot of, like, you know, aliens abducted this person and that happened. And that, I mean, of course, you know, I believe that stuff happens, but, you know, he doesn't get into a lot of flights of fancy. And that's what they need to do. They need to do a documentary like that, where somebody goes in, doesn't have an agenda, and just presents this as it is. Because any thinking person, any person with at least a double-digit IQ is going to see that this church is complicit in covering up and promoting child abuse.
Wow, man, listen, that's a segment to end on there. There's not much more we can speak about in this here, but what I will do is I'll keep everybody up to date with this. Me and Shawn will be doing another live stream next Thursday. I think we'll talk about a couple of different things. We want to talk about maybe that 70s guy, but maybe we'll talk about a few things. So
Yeah.
Tune in next Thursday, 9 p.m. UK Ireland time, 4 p.m. East Coast. Isn't you're in the East Coast of the state?
Yeah.
East Coast. You're 4 p.m. And yeah, you know, interesting stuff. But if there's any more breaking news in that, we'll talk about that. We'll do more live streams in that there. And you mentioned the alien thing. I do have I done a podcast with an alien abductee, 75 years of age, Byron Lacey. Go and check that out. Holden Official, Byron Lacey, BYRON LACEY. Byron Lacey, fantastic story that guy has. No reason to lie. 75 years of age. And I've done 2 parts with him last year. So if you're into the alien stuff, the guy's story is credible. That's all I'm saying. But listen, Shawn, I think we'll wrap it up there.
Okay.
I think you've done another fantastic job tonight. I can't thank you enough for coming on doing these live streams, because I learn. I say this. What this is me and Shawn having a video call, but other people get to look in.
Yeah.
That's it. I don't see this as a podcast. I don't see this as a live stream. I just see this as a video call of me learning shit, and other people get to look in. And it's just, you know, my mind is blown. I can't describe what it would be like to be in a house with a mother that's doing that to you. And listen, I have to apologize about something. I got a wee bit animated earlier on with a seen her face. I knew what she was torturing her children, and I says I would love to put my forehead into her nose. Look, I regret that, because at the end of the day, I shouldn't have said that. I don't promote that type of behavior. Go to the cops, go to the police, report people that do this, regardless if it's a man or a woman. But you have to understand where I'm coming from. Anybody that does that to children, in my opinion, your rights have now been removed. And I hope that justice is served inside that prison, inside the jail, wherever she is, and other ladies get to do what I would like to do.
Right.
Do you understand me? Do you get,
you know how I am. I'm like, I totally believe in alleged innocent until proven guilty, because I've been through the criminal justice system, and I know that it's a corrupt system, and I know that once you get inside of it, the corruption doesn't stop. So, you know, I get it. Everybody deserves their day in court, but when there's insurmountable evidence against you, I mean, evidence that you put out there yourself, you know, that has to be taken into account, and that has to be something that bears fruit. It can't be just something that is brushed off. It has to be looked at.
And I have to say this: if this was a world with no laws, and we were living in some post-apocalyptic world, and somebody in my company done something to a child like that, it's game over. You're not going to be breathing air much longer. And I think a lot of men feel the same way, regardless if you're female or male. If you're going to do horrible things to kids, guess what? Horrible things are going to happen to you. And I would like to end on that note, and that's the message that I have for anybody that's doing that to children. Protect your children, cherish your children, make sure they're fed, watered, clothed, safe, loved, clean, everything. Once you do that, raise them with morals. Get away from these whack job ideologies, left ideologies and right ideologies. Be bang smack in the middle. Use common sense. Don't get involved in cults, and protect children at all costs. Peace out, folks. Thanks, Shawn, for